welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a minute, but we're back and that's all that matters. So here we are again. I've missed you all so much that I can't describe it. But yeah, you guys, I'm super glad to be back, and hello to all of my new subscribers. Hi, how are you? We're gonna have a good time. Also, side note, Monty the Monstera is doing great. I'm so proud. I gave him a new moss pole. He's thriving. And the funny thing is, it's like out of the 4 corners in my room, he does not do well unless he's on the books. Monty, that makes 2 of us. Now, without me continuing to ramble like I always do in my videos, let's get into the books I read for August. So the first book that I read for the month of August, it is Monstrous Volume 3, and this is the Haven book. I think it's Haven, yes. So this one, it is a continuation of the Monstrous Make a Half Wolf journey, where in the other videos that I was talking about, Make a Half Wolf, she is in this steampunk 1920s, 1800s world. Without going into too much detail, Mika's journey continues with her little friend Kippa and little Lord Cat. Love Kippa is just my little girl. Kippa's adorable. I want Kippa in my life. She's just the cutest thing in the world. People are dying some more. Things are getting a lot more dangerous, and Mika is just a little bit closer to figuring out the mystery of her mother and her origin story. So this book, it is by Marjorie Liu, and I just absolutely love the details in this book. It is absolutely incredible. All of the drawings, everything down to just the shading of all of the pictures. This series alone can be told without any words. I can completely see how the stories are going to go even without it having any words. Sometimes I will just flip through the book and look at the pictures and I will know exactly what is happening. Trigger warning though, that one does have a lot of very, very graphic scenes of even like slaughtering towns and children and women, and it's a lot. It's got a lot of stuff in there. So if that's not something you can handle, I would skip over this one. It would not be for you. But Monstrous by Marjorie Liu is one of the books I read for August. The next book that I read for the month of August, it is Grady Hendrix' The Last Girl Support Group. I am a little behind on reading this book, but I finally finished it. It was sitting on my shelf for like a month, maybe 2. Basically, the book, it is about a group of women, and if you don't know what a final support group is, or the final girls, if you don't know what a final girl is, it is the one lone survivor in a mass tragedy, so like a massacre, any kind of killings, things like that. So all of the girls have been a part of this group since everything happened. So they've been in this group for like 20 years or so, maybe even shorter than that. I think it's like between 10 to 20 years that they've been in this group. And one of the women in the group, probably the most influential person in the group, is actually, they find out she was murdered, and Lynette is starting to realize that something's not right. The minute she found out that this person was murdered, she's like, okay, something's not right. So, and everybody thinks Lynette is paranoid because Lynette does have some tendencies. They think she's weird because she has a plant that she talks to, and like that's her only friend, and she's just very, very adamant about staying in the group. Nobody leaves. But Lynette is right. Somebody actually knows about the group, and they know everyone's deepest, darkest secrets, and things blow up from there. Now, the only thing that I will say about this book is that there is a lot of crazy thrown around in this book, where everybody's basically calling them crazy. Like Lynette has PTSD and everybody's just like, you're a psycho, you're crazy. And this is like women in the group calling her a psycho, crazy. And I was just like, okay, it was just thrown around a lot, and I was not fond of that. But other than that, everything was super, super great. The plot twist, and I was so mad. I just wanted to this person so badly, and I wish that they would have got left behind. I wish that what was supposed to have happened to them happened to them. Not gonna get into that and spoil it, but I just wish that it did happen to that person. Yeah, but like I said, I gave this book a 4.5 out of 5. The action was there, everything was super, super awesome, and definitely the mystery. I thought I had it. And I'm like one of those people where, I don't know if you guys do the same thing, but what I do is I like to put down in my phone, in my notes, about my conspiracies and who I think it is. I was this close, and I love it when I'm super, super close, but I still don't get it, because then I'm like, all right, I wasn't able to figure it out all the way. I mean, obviously, until it finally hit me, and I was like, yeah, it was one of those moments. It was great. I loved it. The Last Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix is one of the books that I read for August. The next book that I read, it is Prom House by Chelsea Mueller. So this book, it is about 10 teens. It's prom night. They're going to this really fancy beach house that they rented out for prom. Everybody's having a good time. They're dancing, they're swimming, they're doing their thing. But then a storm hits, la-di-da-di-da, lights go out, things start happening, people start dropping. Now, I gave this book a 2. A 2. Honestly, it's mostly because our main character, basically about prom and her boyfriend. She had only been dating this guy for a couple months and she was just so fixated on him throughout this book, and you got a dead body laying right there and then you're just talking about how green his eyes are, and I'm like, what? And also, it was just a lot of how she was so inconvenienced by people dying and how it ruined her prom night. She went out and bought her dress and this had to happen. It was just a lot of insensitiveness from the main character. And the ending, while the ending was not predictable, it was kind of just typical. It was like your run-of-the-mill ending with this particular killer and their style. There was a lot of things in there that we found out that we did not see coming. Like, let me tell you that. There was some mystery in there, but I just thought that it was just focused mostly on the main character and her being upset that this had to happen on prom night, and I just wasn't into it. If you guys really want something that's super short and will just get you out of a reading slump, then this book is definitely for you. Albeit there is a lot of, there's like teen drinking and stuff like that, drugs, so trigger warning for that. Prom House by Chelsea Mueller is one of the books that I read for August. So the next book that I read for August, it is The Fade by Demetria Lunetta. And this book, it follows a girl named Haley, where her and her family move into this new house. But the thing is with this house is that it is supposed to be haunted by 4 girls that went missing, and supposedly they were murdered in the house. But Haley is having dreams and she's drawing pictures of these girls that were murdered, and they are trying to tell her the story about what happened to them, and they want Haley to tell their story. So I gave this book I've been given like a lot of, like, not low ratings, but like some stuff just wasn't my favorite. This book, I gave it a 2.5 rounded up to a 3, only because there was a lot of gaps in between the stories of things that were happening, to where it was just like, when did that happen? Like, let's back up a little bit. When did this happen? You could tell in the book to where they tried to make things connect because they realized it wasn't making sense. And even then, it's just, you could tell that it was just like, okay, now you're just trying to connect the dots because you realized it wasn't making sense. I just didn't know how to feel about it, because although the mystery was great and the mystery was there, I just feel like there was a lot of things that we didn't get anything from it. And I really wanted to read a book that was not as, I guess, promoted as other mystery books, and this one was one of the books that I found. I definitely want to give her books another chance to read, because I don't like, you know, I always like to give an author a second chance when it comes to reading their books. So I am not hating on the book whatsoever, it just was not for me. But if you wanted to give this book a go, it is The Fade by Demetria Lunetta, and that was one of the books that I read for August. So the next book that I read for August, it is Every Last Fear by Alex Finley, and this book, it is about a student from NYU named Matt Pine, and while he's at school, he finds out that his entire family was killed in a gas leak. So Matt is obviously devastated, because that was the only family he had in the world, along with a brother whose name is Damon, and his brother is actually in prison for murdering his girlfriend in high school, and he got sentenced to life in prison. It was looking like it wasn't him. So Matt already didn't believe that his brother did it, but they didn't have a very good relationship. The FBI comes and gets him, and it's like, you have to go down there to get the bodies and identify them. But as Matt is trying to go get his family, things are happening. Like, he gets pushed in front of a bus and things go missing, and he's just having a lot of accidents with his whole family's death. The story was told in several different perspectives. You deal with his father and his sister, who have their own thing going on. They're working together on a secret something, I'm not going to tell you. His family was also struggling because there is a documentary about his brother with the murders, and the family just goes through so much heartbreak because they're trying to live through a fame that they never wanted. It hit some solid points and I loved it. I loved it. So Every Last Fear by Alex Finley is one of the books that I read for August. So the next book that I read for the month of August, it is For Your Own Good by Samantha Downing. This book was probably my favorite out of all of the books. Out of all the books, I think this one was my favorite. Crazy. And let me shut up and let me tell you about this book. So this book, it is about a teacher named Teddy, and he is at this elite private high school. He's a teacher, and Teddy is a man of rules. He wants you to, do what Teddy says or pay. Do what he says or pay. So we all know we have that teacher that has just that one student where they despise with all of their might. And this one student is actually trying to show Teddy, like, I'm a good kid, I'm a good student. I'm in your class, I do all my homework, I do everything. And Teddy just hates him. So he decides that he wants to, you know, impress Teddy with the project. He wants to really get to know Teddy, but then he starts digging a little bit too much for Mr. Teddy Crutcher's liking, and Teddy's got to do something about it. This book was absolutely phenomenal. I cannot wait to read another book from Samantha Downing with Teddy, and just the ending. I loved it. I was obsessed with this book, and I definitely want to read another book from Samantha Downing. So For Your Own Good by Samantha Downing was one of the books that I read for August. Another one that I read for the month of August, it is The Family Plot by Megan Collins. So this story, it is about a family that is obsessed with true crime. We have a mother and a father who are just true crime aficionados, and they teach their kids all about true crimes. They act out the crime scene. They make them like study everything, and they're actually all named after people that were victims of serial killings. So Tate for Sharon Tate, Dahlia for the Black Dahlia, Andy for Andrew Borden, Charles for the Charles Lindbergh kidnapping. You name it, they're all named after somebody. Our main character is Dahlia, and Dahlia has a twin brother named Andy, and when they turn 16, Andy runs away from home. He doesn't want anything to do with the family. He's just like, I'm done with this weirdness, I'm out. Dahlia never sees or hears from her brother again. So as Dahlia gets older, she's just finding it really hard to cope without her twin brother. So she leaves town and comes back 10 years later, and it is for the funeral of her father. But when they are digging up the plot for their father, they find a body in the father's plot with an axe in the skull. An axe in the skull. And everybody's thinking, Andrew Borden, axe in the skull, axe in the skull. Andy's missing. What's that connection here? And Dahlia's just like, no, it's not him, it's not him. But alas, they do find out that it is Andy. No, that was not a spoiler. It does say it in the book. It does say it in the blurb. It's there. She's devastated because she spent 10 years looking for her brother and was adamant that he did not pass because, you know, twin powers. She didn't feel it, she didn't know, and she found that hard to cope with. But there's also another big twist. There were murders of women on the island that they live on, and the town is suspecting that they all had something to do with the murders. So not only is Dahlia trying to prove that her family had nothing to do with these murders, but she's also trying to prove who killed her brother and what the connection is that they have to these town murders. Now, the ending of this book, I was a little upset with the ending of the book because I just feel like something got off really easy. But to me, it wasn't what I wanted, or it wasn't what I expected, but I still understood the choices that were made in the end of the book. That's what I'll say. I understood the choices that were made in the end of the book. It's about family. It's about family, and no matter what, people will protect their family, period. But I thought it was great because I haven't read a book about families that were obsessed with true crime to where they're naming their kids after them and their whole school curriculum is about true crime. I thought that was really quirky. I thought it was interesting and I loved it. But I definitely think this is one that you guys should pick up. So The Family Plot by Megan Collins is one of the books that I read for August. Now, the last book that I read for August, it is The Good Lie by A.R. Torr. So it's a little hard for me to explain the book, so I'm just going to read the blurb a little bit. It says, 6 teens murdered, a suspect behind bars, a desperate father. In a case this shadowy, the truth is easy to hide. 6 teenagers dead, finally, the killer behind bars. But are the games just beginning? Psychiatrist Dr. Gwen Moore is an expert on killers. She spent a decade treating California's most depraved predators and unlocking their motives. Predators much like the notorious Bloody Heart serial killer, whose latest teenage victim escapes and then identified local high school teacher Randall Thompson as his captor. This case against Thompson as the Bloody Heart killer is damning as far as Gwen and the media are concerned, if not for one new development. Defense attorney Robert Cavan is a still traumatized father whose own son fell prey to the BH killer. Convinced of Thompson's innocence, he steps in to present him. Now Robert wants Gwen to interview the accused, create a psych profile of the killer and his victims, and help clear his client's name. As Gwen and Robert grow closer and she dives deeper into the investigation, grave questions arise. So does Gwen's suspicion that Robert is hiding something and that he might not be the only one with a secret. That was a blurb. Try to read it as fast as I could. I'm losing my breath. I loved this book. I gave it a 4 out of 5. Now, this book is definitely, we got some trigger warnings in there. We have a lot of trigger warnings in there. So it's about teenagers being murdered, and it does get into a little bit of graphic details about what happened to them and how their bodies were left. So I do recommend, if you're very sensitive to details, I would just glaze over this one. Just go on and skip on over it. But if you're okay, we'll talk about it. We'll talk. Now, if you guys are into like the psychology of serial killers, then I definitely think that you guys would like this book, because it does go into a little bit of the psyche and the psyche of serial killers, where Gwen does explain it to Robert, who is her who basically is her employer, to figure out if this man really did kill his son. And I thought it was an interesting approach to the story. You don't see stories like that a lot, to where they are defending the killer because the motive doesn't seem there, something's not right, and things just aren't connecting, and people don't care. People just want somebody to go to jail just because they want somebody in jail for the crime. Sometimes it doesn't matter if they're innocent or not, but unfortunately that is the justice system, and we do see a lot of that in this book. It's just the easy route, and Gwen and Robert, they think something's up. They definitely think something's up, and when they find out, I was just... Gwen irritated me a little bit, because as a therapist, she seemed very cocky and dismissive of some of her clients, where you do see that she's just very like, no, you're fine. No, you're fine. And that irritates me, because there are some therapists like that, to where they don't really listen to their clients. They're kind of just like, you're fine, like you're good. And we do see that with Gwen, and you know, Gwen pays the price for something that happens. She pays the price. But Gwen, even though some stuff happens, homegirl's good. She's good, and she knows she's very, very good. And that's what I loved about this book. There's not a book that I can even describe that this book is close to, because this one was just unique in its own way, and I was here for it. I was so here for it, and I'm still here for it. So The Good Lie by A.R. Torre, or Torre, is one of the books that I read for August. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments down below of any books that you would like me to read, or any recommendations that you want me to give you. Let me know, and we'll talk about it. So happy to be back with you guys and filming videos, and I'm just so excited. I'm so excited. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you all, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye.